Now, often when we have these types of emotionally and potentially physically abusive relationships, most of the time we enter into these relationships out of a need that we are seeking. We are seeking a need for validation or for love or acceptance, or we're seeking a need for somebody to not abandon us. When we are leading with the energy of needing something, it does make us vulnerable to others who might be looking to take something. Welcome to the Akashic Recordings. I'm Annette DeLu, Akashic conduit, channel, and spiritual guidance coach. I want to thank you for joining me today. The Akashic Recordings is created through the cooperation of my clients who have agreed to have their sessions recorded. Of course, with their permission, I am able to share these beautiful sessions with you. If you are interested in booking a session with me, you can go to my website at infinitesoullove.com. Registration for Soul Discovery Workshop Online is just 1 week away. On November 5th at noon Central European time, so that's Paris time, we will be opening up the window to be able to register for Soul Discovery Workshop. Now, this window is only going to be open for 2 weeks and spots are very limited. So make sure you register as soon as possible. To give you a little recap of some of the things that you will be learning over this 12-week course, you will be learning how to clear your energy and prepare yourself to really connect in deeper with your intuition. You will be meeting your angelic team. You will be doing shadow work, chakra scanning, learning how to really connect to your own faith and trust regarding your intuition. You will be working with other like-minded individuals and other energy souls. You will be working together in order to practice these intuitions, practice these spiritual gifts. And in the final weeks of the course, you will be learning how to access your own Akashic records. I will be teaching you how to clear vows and soul contracts and how to clear ancestral lines. So make sure that you head to my website at infinitesoullove.com. And you can head to the link there that says Soul Discovery Workshop. You will see the outline for the course and all of the registration dates and everything that you need to know in order to register. The course will be starting in January, so you will have plenty of time to prepare, and I cannot wait to work with all of you. Brianne came to me with some questions about why she incarnated in the family that she did. There seems to be a pattern that has been following her from her childhood all the way through to her adulthood. She has been struggling with people treating her in a way that she does not want to be treated. And we go into an exploration of how she can move out of that with self-love. All right, so tell me, what would you like to talk about today?
Why was I born into the family that I was born into, particularly my parents and my oldest brother? I want to know about the relationship with my children, and I want to know about the current marriage that I am in.
So the first thing that I'm hearing about your root chakra is it is expanding. It is creating more room and more ability to house more of this root chakra energy. In the past, it has been relatively closed, and that is due to your upbringing. It's due to things that you've experienced earlier in your life. You have done a lot of work on yourself. You've done a lot of work over the years. And so what is happening right now with your root chakra is that it is allowing more abundance, more safety, more security to come into your life. It is not quite here yet, but it is in the process of unfolding and opening up. So it's great. I mean, I'm not seeing any blockages in the root chakra at all. So your solar plexus chakra is like folding in on itself. Like instead of the light being cast out in front of you, it's like folding itself back into the chakra itself. I'm hearing you want to hide. You don't want to be seen or noticed. This has been the case for a majority of your life. You have not really wanted to be able to be seen. And that is also changing, and that is very scary for you. You want to be able to continue to be hidden. The divine is asking something else of you at this time. And this does have to do with your soul purpose. And we'll get more information about that as well. So then let's move that energy into your heart chakra. They are showing me just like the perfect rendition of a heart, like a Valentine's heart. So it's that bright red and it's very perfectly shaped. And I'm seeing you outline it with your fingers, like outlining the heart with your fingers. I'm hearing the words perfection, like you're trying to achieve some form of perfection in your heart space. I'm asking my guides right now if they can sort of explain to me what this is representing and what this means for you. It's a facade. Okay. It is something that is been created and cultivated over the course of lifetimes for her to show an outward version of herself, which is very loving, when inside there is a lot of sadness. It's very hard to give love when you feel less than or you feel sadness within yourself. And these are old wounds. These are wounds from many lifetimes ago. But you've done a very good job of masking them. You've done a very good job of showing the world the heart that you want to have. And this is what you've been trying to manifest. But it's difficult to manifest the type of heart that you want to have in this perfection that you're trying to achieve, because that perfection doesn't exist. The perfection in how you show up in the world as a human is just not possible. What we are looking for in this heart space is authenticity in how you are feeling at any given moment, and being able to identify it and really work with yourself and understand how you feel. This is where a lot of your anxiety comes from. The anxiety of having to keep up the facade of always being okay and always looking out for others first. Now is the time to start looking after yourself. All right. There's some worries and fears surrounding the energy that is coming in through your crown. You don't understand some of the things that are happening in terms of your energetic growth, in terms of your psychic gifts, in terms of all of the things that are happening at this time. So there is some fear and anxiety surrounding that. They're saying there's nothing to fear. There's nothing to be worried about. It's going to happen in gradual time, and nothing will happen before you're ready. You will always be taken care of. You will always be protected. And this is a journey that's meant for you. So you will be supported in this journey always. So then let's move that energy down into your third eye. So I'm seeing a star in your third eye, like an actual star shape. So this is your Reiki energy. It is your divine protection in your third eye, your balance of your divine feminine, divine masculine energies within you. Everything is coming in through your third eye. This is your power center. This is your door to unlocking the mysteries of the cosmos. You have a direct link to universal knowledge, and this is something you will be cultivating over the course of time. Right, so then let's move that energy down into your throat chakra. So I'm seeing it as a darker blue. And what is happening is everything that you're communicating through your voice right now is basically showing the person you're communicating to the energy that is going on behind it. So the facade that you've created within your heart, the fear that you have in your crown, is being communicated through your voice, whether you're using words to communicate that or not. The way that you are getting responses from people, it's disjointed. And the reason why it's disjointed is because of the fact that the energy and the words you're using are not matching up. So you're using words that are not necessarily aligning with how you're actually feeling, where your energy is. I want to thank Akula, my Akashic guide. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you to Archangel Metatron and Archangel Sandalphon for being here as well. Today we are opening up the Akashic records. Where do we need to go first? The heart chakra. Okay. That's going to explain a lot of what she is experiencing currently in her marriage, as well as her relationship with her children. The first thing I'm seeing is that you are a very, very tall woman in this particular past life. You're blonde, like shoulder length hair. You're very thin and you have very long limbs. So like your arms and legs are very long. You're considered to be quite beautiful. You are not like everybody else in this particular place where you are. I'm not quite seeing where you are yet, but they're going to show us. I'm hearing that people with blonde hair were not common where you were. You carried yourself in a way that you didn't want to stand out anymore. You were tired of standing out because you were so tall. I'm seeing you sort of hunching your shoulders, trying to make yourself smaller. They're showing me the solar plexus chakra and how you're trying to lose yourself within yourself and sort of crawl back inward so nobody sees you. This is kind of that same feeling. Everyone else called you beautiful, but you didn't see it. You didn't believe that you were beautiful. You wanted to look like everyone else. You wanted to be like everyone else. Everyone around you has very dark hair, very long, thick, straight, dark hair. This feels what would be considered modern day India. I'm hearing that your parents were travelers. Your mother wasn't from India. Your mother was from a different country. Although she did not have blonde hair, she did come from a country that did often have light hair, light eyes, within its population. And this is how you ended up looking so different from everyone else in your city, in your town where you lived. You felt very out of place. You felt very alone. When you were growing up, children would point at you and they would laugh because they didn't understand. They didn't understand that people could look different from them. Your mother in this particular lifetime was very kind. She really helped you and tried to dissuade any sort of sadness or fears that you had about being different. The problem is that how you chose to cope in this particular lifetime is you chose to outwardly focus on other people. You learned that if you focused on other people, and that would actually keep the focus off of you. So I'm hearing you say about one of your classmates, I'm hearing you say, oh, this person is really good at drawing. You should really look at their drawings. They're amazing. And so you're directing the attention to other people to get the direct attention off of yourself. So you got into this really deep habit of always doing that, always presenting. And it is exactly that, almost like you were presenting other people. You're presenting them to other people. Like, look at how amazing this person is. Look at how amazing that person is. This was a way of deflection. It was a way of keeping people at arm's length, keeping people from getting to know who you are. What's really unfortunate is that there were several people that you knew when you were younger, childhood friends, who really, really loved you, who thought that you were just the coolest person. And you couldn't receive that. You couldn't receive that love from those friends. I keep on hearing you say, no, I don't deserve it. I'm not that way. You couldn't really connect with your own inner heart, your inner soul, to be able to see who you truly were. You thought you were a nobody. You thought you weren't anybody special, and that there's no reason why anybody should spend any time with you in any way, because there's no reason to. Wow. Oh, okay. Whew, I'm feeling there's a lot of deep grief in there. There's a lot of deep pain over feeling not worthy to be even spent time with. So was this particular situation cultivated simply by this particular lifetime, the fact that she looked physically different? Yes. Did she sign up for this experience? She did. And why did she sign up for this particular experience? Because she needed to learn how to love herself no matter what. She had been previous incarnations where she had been even more beautiful than she was in this lifetime, and she never appreciated it. She never appreciated who she was. She really needed to find a way to deep down dive into her heart, to dive into her soul, to appreciate who she is. And she was never able to really fully do that in previous incarnations. This was a stuck point for her. She was really stuck in her inability to see how magical she was as a person in this particular lifetime. She had a gift. Her gift was connecting people. And although she used that gift, she used it as a way and a means to deflect. She used it in a way that was keeping people away from her, not keeping them connected to her, keeping people at arm's length, making sure those connections didn't stick. Okay. We are going to fast forward in the lifetime so she can see the trajectory of what happened. Okay, so I'm seeing you. This is sort of an energetic image that I'm seeing. This isn't like a physical thing that happened, but energetically what I'm seeing is that you've created this force field around yourself so nobody can get in, not even your parents anymore. So like this force field is around you. Your parents are like knocking on the force field. You have friends that are knocking on the force field, trying to get to you, trying to understand why you're separating yourself from everyone. You're trying to keep them out. It's too much energy. And I just see you explode with anger. You're really, really angry. Your loved ones don't understand why. They don't understand why you're angry because you haven't communicated to them how you've been feeling this whole time. So you didn't communicate to your mom outside of the beginning part of your life when you were a child. You expressed that to her back then. But as you grew older in this previous lifetime, you just sort of let it go. You didn't mention it anymore. And so all of this sadness and resentment just sort of built up within yourself. And then you got really angry at people for not trying to connect to you, which they were super confused about because all of them were trying to connect to you all the time. You just wouldn't let them. And unfortunately, this entire lifetime, all of your sadness, all of your disconnection from others was self-created because you didn't feel worthy. You didn't feel like you were somebody worthy to connect to. And this is what you've been working on for several lifetimes. The ability to fully embody who you are, to love who you are. Self-love is part of what your life's purpose is in this lifetime, in your current lifetime. Understanding what self-love means, understanding that self-love doesn't just mean accepting all of the parts of you that you love. It's accepting the parts of you that you don't love. It's accepting your shadow, integrating your shadow, understanding that we have all been less than stellar people, and yet we have to love those parts of ourselves. You have to love that hair out of place. You have to love your body, what your body shape is, no matter what it is. If you're too tall to your liking, as you were in this previous lifetime, stand tall. Don't hunch over. Put your shoulders back and be proud of who you are. So we're going to dive a little bit more into this idea of self-love in a little bit, but I want to sort of check in with you right now to see if you have any questions.
No, interestingly enough, a lot of the stuff that you just described are things that actually carried into where I'm at now. I am tall. I have never been happy about being tall. I have never been comfortable with my physical appearance. I don't consider myself to be attractive. I have had it. I think from what you're telling me, it sounds like for whatever reason, the family I was born into this time, my mother and I, it's almost, I really think that we had previous lifetimes where we were mortal enemies. And her oldest son, I think there was a dysfunctional connection between them, and they partnered together. And I think my father was there was some type of a love triangle. It's the best way I could describe it. This is what I've tapped into. This is what has come to me through meditation. The woman that you described to me, I actually saw her in a meditation. And it was a version of who I am today, but with very white hair and very light eyes. I saw it.
And I'm getting really big chills right now.
Me too.
I love when that happens.
No, me too. Me too.
That's
my
great.
whole body is in chills.
Yeah. That sounds like a really good segue then to take a look at your connection with your mother to see why you chose specifically your mother and your father in this current lifetime. So let's take a look. Okay. So have they had previous lifetimes together? She has had previous lifetimes with her mother, as she has said. She knows this. She has not had previous lifetimes with her father. Her father was somebody who is connected to her mother. It was a package deal when she decided to incarnate with this particular soul. Okay. Did she know her mother's soul from this current lifetime? Did she know her in that lifetime that we just looked at? She did not. She was not in that lifetime. Okay. She has been in previous lifetimes though. Okay. Is she part of her soul family? She is not. Okay. And her brother, he is not part of her soul family either. He is also part of the package deal. Okay. So in other words, she chose to incarnate with her mother, but then it was sort of not a choice in terms of her father and her brother. Correct. Okay. It was a package deal. Even though it was a package deal, it was something that was actually the perfect energy in this lifetime. It was the perfect energy for her to experience what she needed to experience in this lifetime. And although that can be really hard to hear sometimes, it can be harsh to hear that we choose really challenging situations in terms of our parents. This is what has cracked her open and put her on her path of ascension in this lifetime. She knew that she needed something that would be extreme. And the reason for this is because in previous lifetimes, such as the one that we just looked at, she had a mother who was very supportive, who was very loving. She had friends who were very supportive and very loving, and she could not receive their love. So oftentimes what we need is we need the contrast. So in order for her to get to her place of self-love, she needed to experience not only the antithesis of that, but she needed to experience somebody who was doing the opposite of loving her. So eventually she could stand up and say, no, I love myself. I'm worthy of all of this. Why are you treating me this way? And although that did not happen when she was a child, this was the general sentiment of how things have been unfolding over the course of time. Just know that your connection with your mother, your connection with your father, as well as your brother, the reasons for them incarnating in your life, you incarnating in their life, the reasons have been fulfilled. They are complete. If you should so choose to not have a connection with any of them, that is your choice. The soul contracts have been fulfilled. There is nothing left to clear.
They've all passed away, and I said goodbye to them. I said goodbye, and I did it with dignity. I did my best to give them the most respectful, decent eulogies and life stories. And I only focused, even if I had to embellish, I only focused on the good. And I did present them as totally awesome people. And I am so grateful for no matter what they did to me, because I learned from it.
Yeah.
With my brother, I was not able to do that. I could not forgive him for what he did to me. But he did pass away. But I am totally at peace. I don't feel tormented by him anymore. Beautiful. And I knew instinctively that when he passed, I was told this because I saw his passing years before it happened. And I even saw what happened to him, which is awful. But I was told in that dream, you drop to your knees and you pray for his soul so that he passes on and goes into the light.
One of the things that was coming through for me while you were speaking was that you did everything you could to be as positive as possible for all of them. The challenge is you didn't necessarily express honestly all of your feelings about them at the time. Now, when we express those types of feelings, it doesn't need to be to the person, and it doesn't need to be to anyone else. It can be work that we do on our own. So my question to you is, have you since done that? Have you, let's say, written it down? Have you had a conversation with yourself or with them on the other side and really expressed how you really felt about what happened?
With my mother, I did. And my dad passed. In fact, it was a year ago today that my dad went into hospice.
Okay.
And with him, I thought he was perfect. He was my knight in shining armor. He was just, and it was all, it wasn't true. Okay. He was just as responsible for what happened to me when I was a child as she was and my brother was. And he chose to close his eyes. And even though he never left the home, there would be times he wouldn't come home for months. But I told myself, oh no, if he knew this was happening, he would stop it, that type of thing. So no, with him, I think a lot of it in my heart, I knew he wasn't perfect. I knew this stuff as a child. I was a very astute child. I was never really a child. My mom, the first time she laid eyes on me, said, get this effing ugly baby away from me. She said she knew from the second I was conceived that I hated her. Here I was, an infant, completely dependent on this woman. And she had all kinds of substance abuse problems, and she was not psychologically healthy. And I knew this. I have memories that I shouldn't have. Before I was a year old, I have memories. And I would ask my dad, oh, there was French doors in this house. And he would look at me and he'd say, there's no way I don't know how you remember that. We left there when you were 11 months old. Things like that. I always had prophetic dreams. I remember one time I was in school and I was struggling mathematically. And I was working through these mathematic problems in my head. And all of a sudden, this knowledge, and I somehow knew, I was like maybe 5, 6 years old, that it was way beyond what I was supposed to understand. And that I knew that if I let it come in, that somehow I was going to know something that was way beyond me, way beyond me. And it scared me. So I shut it down.
Right.
I just shut it down. I had visions. One time I had a vision that literally probably saved my life. I look back on my life and I think how very strange. I dreamt of a man before my first marriage ended, and it was on its way out. The marriage was ending. I dreamt of this man. I do think he was my twin flame. I'd never seen him, met him. I ended up meeting him probably 18 months later. And it was just a really bad, unhealthy situation that went on for 4 years. And I finally had to get the strength to say, no more. I'm done.
Yeah.
And even after that, he still tried to come back. I'm trying really hard now to pay attention to my dreams because I believe that's the way messages come to me. With my parents, they left me as next of kin. They had 5 kids. Okay. They heavily relied upon me to do the right thing. My dad ended up in a nursing home. He had diabetes. He had Parkinson's. It was really, really sad and awful. I was the one that he depended on to make sure that he was taken care of, to make sure that his burial was taken care of, to make sure that everything was done. It was expected of me. It was expected of me to take care of my 2 little sisters. I took on those responsibilities. The mother that you described to me in my previous life, the loving, caring person, that sounds like my grandmother in this life. She was such a loving, just pure love. And I was hated by the others because she loved me. My mom was so jealous of that love.
it is time now to really remove and move through any of the fears you have surrounding your visions, surrounding the prophetic dreams you have, surrounding all of that. And you have worked on it over the course of the years. You have been able to sort of work through it, but there still is an element of fear there. And they're wanting me to ask you if you know where that fear comes from.
I think it's from a previous life, and I think that I was shown something that ended up coming to fruition. And I think that it was a really bad, really painful, awful loss for me. My 2 sons, I have really difficult relationship with them because of my ex-husband. I love them dearly. They're the reason I do everything. They're amazing young men, but they both see me through their father's eyes, which is not good. It's like you were saying, I try really hard to put on a smile and treat them nicely and be good to them. But I have never been able to say to them, your treatment of me is very painful. You hurt me. They're grown men now.
Right.
My oldest is starting, and I think he's having a spiritual awakening, even though he won't even admit that there's a spiritual realm. I think it's happening to him. But that is an area that I do need to be able to say to my sons, please don't treat me that way. Mm-hmm. It's very hurtful. It's painful. Mm. And I love you with everything that I am. And I don't deserve this. I don't know where it comes from. I don't know why, but they need to figure it out.
So would you want to connect with their souls right now, with their higher selves, and not only find out why they are treating you this way, but then also to express to them what you want to express? Would you feel comfortable doing that right now?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, great. So I would like you to imagine that you're standing in a field of grass and flowers. Okay. And surrounding you is a circle of trees, offering up that divine light protection. And I'd like you to imagine a beautiful column of light coming down from the sky. And within this column of light is a door. And I would like you to open the door and walk inside. And inside is the beautiful sacred space that is yours and yours alone. This is where your Akashic records are held. This is where you can connect to anyone you would like to connect to. And I would like you to imagine that in this grand space, both of your sons are standing before you. And the first question I'd like you to ask them is, why is it that you are having this energetic experience with them at this time? And I would like you to ask both of them, or they both can answer separately or simultaneously. And just let me know when you're done.
Okay, I'm done.
Okay, so what did they say?
They have anger going all the way back to even before their father and I split up. They saw me as being weak because their father got involved with a woman that was horrible, horrible energy. And I didn't stand up in a way where I fought. It would have become physical. They didn't see the horribleness that would have come of all of that. Mm. And they saw their father as victorious because he was the one that was dishing out the meanness. And then I ended up involved with, many, many years later, ended up with a man that I ended up marrying that was just not good for anyone, even for himself. And that kind of solidified, that frosted the cake. And they won't even come around me now because of him. That's part of why I'm on the phone with you. I have to figure out where that contract came from and figure out what it's supposed to mean, what I'm supposed to do with it.
So one of the things that I'm also hearing is the experience that your sons are giving you at this time. This experience is to force you, to force your hand, to stand up for yourself, to love yourself, fully embody that self-love. The greatest act of self-love is to remove yourself from situations that do not serve you, to remove yourself from situations that are harmful. It is not your job to remove anyone else from situations that are harmful for them. It is each our individual jobs to be able to assess what is aligned for us and what is not. And you may ask, how do I know what is aligned for me and what isn't? Well, your body tells you. If you're in fear, worry, anger, sadness, if you're in all of these lower energies, guilt and shame, whenever you're around a certain person, that is a reflection back at you. It gives you an idea of what is happening in this moment. Now, every situation can be different. So for example, with your sons, there is a lot of confusion within them. They don't understand what a healthy relationship with self looks like. You need to be that example. The reason why they turn towards their father is because they see that as a healthy example of self-love, when in fact it is a healthy example of giant ego. 3D self-love. 3D self-love is simply just having confidence, which you can have, but there's nothing behind it. That is where that toxic masculinity comes from. And that toxic masculinity can be in any gender. One of the things that could allow you to start repairing your relationship with your boys is to be able to be transparent with how you have been. And it's not about blame. It's not about blaming them for treating you in a certain way. And it's not about blaming your husband for treating you in a certain way. It is about taking ownership for yourself and saying, you know what? I should have done this a long time ago. I should have loved myself enough to say that I need to draw a boundary with this situation or that situation, that I wish that I would have known what self-love was back then, but I didn't, and I know now. Now, all of this work that you do on this self-love and expressing these new feelings, these new energetic connections within yourself doesn't always necessarily need to be with the other person. It can simply be on the spirit plane, as we are doing right now with your boys. They are listening as they are standing here in this sacred space. They are hearing all of this and they are understanding. You can shift and change any relationship on the spirit levels, and it will shift and change everything in the 3D. This is the work that you must do with your boys. Do this energetically first. Connect with them energetically. Tell them how you feel. Be vulnerable with where you are. Eventually, this will happen in the 3D. Let's start with the spirit.
Okay.
So the second man that you married, is this your current husband?
Yes.
And you're asking about the soul contract between the two of you?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it's a carryover from the relationship that I had with my mother, my father, and my brother. I feel like he carries elements of each one of them, the worst elements.
When I was saying about your parents and your brother, about how you can make the decision to walk away from them now. It's interesting because when I'm in the records and I'm seeing people in spirit, it's like I'm seeing people in spirit. So I can't really tell if they're actually incarnated on the earth or not, because I'm actually connecting to their souls. So you're still in that place of needing to draw that boundary. You were able to do it in increments with the three of them. And then once they crossed over and your soul contracts were done with them, it's like your first husband picked up the soul contract and kind of ran with it. And then that ended. And then now your second husband has picked up that soul contract. So this is something that is a continuation. It is a continuation of this lesson for you to learn. It is about you being able to have enough self-love where things like this, situations like this, the way people treat you, is of the utmost importance to your day-to-day experience. There are times when we have a tendency to just sit there and take it because it's the easier thing to do rather than to get up and walk away. And when we talk about getting up and walking away, we're not talking about permanently necessarily for all people. We're talking about taking a step back and understanding that this is not something that you are choosing to experience any further. And you are walking away from this energy. If you think about it in terms of manifestation, if you continually walk into that same energy of somebody telling you that you can't do the things that you say that you want to do, that you're not capable, if you continue to have this conversation or continue being in that space or that energetic space, that is what you are going to continue to manifest, because that is the belief system that you are creating within yourself. Somebody is giving you a belief system and you are taking it and you are running with it. It is time for you to stop carrying these belief systems that other people have put upon you. It's time to start creating your own belief systems about who you are. Your soul contract with your husband, with your current husband, will be complete once you are able to master the ability of self-love, of being able to create and be in a place that is aligned for you. Okay. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely. The human side of me tells me, I can't tell you how many times I've said, I just want to get up and run out of here. I've already told you my animals are the biggest. I just love them. They're all joy, all love, all peace. I have 2 dogs and 2 cats. I want to be able to have a roof over my head, be able to keep my animals and take care of them and take care of myself and do it peacefully.
Yeah.
peacefully. Because if we're at inner peace within ourselves, everything else flows. And this man has no inner peace at all.
Yeah.
And that's his thing. It's not mine. Right now, we're living in the same house, but I've been in my own bedroom, which is my sanctuary, for going on 5 years now. So we're, technically separated in many, many ways, but he tries to keep his claws in because that's how he anchors himself, is through control. It's so the same feeling I had about my brother, that awful, awful feeling.
What are the steps that you could take that you would feel comfortable taking right now to be able to start having that peace on a day-to-day basis?
Well, I've already started taking them. I try to communicate with him as peacefully as I possibly can. I try really hard to see him as a soul, because we're all souls. We all
Absolutely.
came from the same place. I understand that. And I also understand that he is acting out of fear and insecurity and all kinds of inner turmoil. I understand that's his. It's not mine, but because I'm the only human in his life, it all comes at me. He's literally family, friends. They've all just locked the doors and bolted them. So he has no one else to really talk to. And that energy, it comes at me. My inner voice has told me that one of the things I do need to do is to not hate him. That I have to, because my higher self talks to me sometimes, breaks through.
Yeah.
And it says, you need to stop hating him. You need to see him as a soul. You need to treat him, not love him, but treat him lovingly, if that makes sense.
It does.
That once I do that, this will somehow dissolve. And I don't know how, but somehow it will dissolve. But that's what I've been told.
So there are often discrepancies between what we feel in our human selves and what we feel in our souls, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so we can certainly feel that compassion and that love for somebody, even if they treat us poorly. We can feel that love and compassion for that soul, understanding that they are just a wounded little boy inside, or they have gone through whatever traumas they've gone through. We can be in that very connected, neutral space in the soul. And it's a very peaceful place, and it's a very beautiful place to be. But we cannot discount the feelings of trauma or the feelings that we have within our own bodies. And this is what they're trying to help you to see as well. And this is what they were showing me in your heart chakra, is that, yes, of course, we want to be the spiritual beings that we are. And we want to be able to not judge and not hate and not do all of those things. Of course, that does help with that inner forgiveness. It helps with understanding where somebody is coming from on a soul level, to be able to forgive what has been done. The challenge is that the actual emotions, the physical emotions in the 3D body still remain. So we cannot ignore those. We cannot ignore the energy that we house in our body after all of the trauma that you've experienced with your family and then, with your husbands. You cannot ignore it. So I'm going to recommend that if you haven't started this already, they're saying you have done some of this already. They want you to step it up a bit, which is start doing either Qigong or somatic movement, some sort of way in which you can get this energy out of your body.
Qigong, I don't know what that is.
Qigong is a Chinese practice of body movement, and it basically moves the energy through and out of your body. The other way that you can get this out is EFT tapping, if you have ever heard of that. So you can do a little search as well on, it's called the Emotional Freedom Technique, or EFT, and that will help you to release some of this from your body as well. I will also encourage you to write down your feelings, write down really, truly how you feel about what has happened. And this goes for your parents. This goes for your brother, your husbands, your sons. No holds barred. Nobody's going to read this, because I'm going to suggest that you either burn it or destroy it after. But write down exactly how you feel. Say all of the things you never said. Say all of the things you've always wanted to say on this piece of paper toward each one of them. And then I want you to write down how you feel about it, like how you feel about what you said. Because what happens when we do this, a lot of times we create this sort of compounding of emotions. We create this feeling of guilt or shame surrounding how we feel about a particular thing. So if you say, about your mother. I was so angry with her because she treated me this way and she did this, this, and this. And you're saying all of these angry things on this piece of paper, but then you can actually look at it afterwards and judge yourself for saying these things. So then it actually compounds the lower energy. So this is what we're trying to sort of get out. So like write down how you feel and then write down how you feel about what you just wrote. Right. And try to work through those emotions and feel into them and say, okay, you know what? I am human. And when any human who is incarnated on this planet gets treated this particular way, it's going to have an effect. It's going to have an energetic effect. Okay.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I'm feeling called to do at this moment, and this is something that they want you to practice as well, is I'm being called to do a bit of an energetic cord cutting between you and your husbands, as well as your family. So I'm going to ask Archangel Michael to be with us now in your sacred space. And I'm going to ask him to remove any and all energetic cords between you and your first husband. This one is old. It's very, very old. Yeah. It's connected to the back of your neck. And I'm hearing control. And I'm hearing actually your second husband, same thing. It's actually connected in the exact same spot. So we're going to remove both of those energetic cords, please. Thank you. There's something about with your family. This is all three of them, actually. There was an energetic cord that when they were around, it's not there anymore, but they were just showing it to me because it's significant. It's almost like they're bending your knees. This cord is binding your knees. So you're sitting down, like you have to sit down. When you're punishing a child, you tell them to go sit in the corner or go sit down. You know, that's kind of the feeling that I'm getting, is that they were constantly telling you to do something. Again, the control issue, but then also they were trying to make you feel small. They were trying to make you feel less than. Okay, so we're going to remove any and all cords that do not belong. Do we need to retrieve any soul fragments? We do. Okay. Are they from anybody in this current lifetime? No, they're from a previous lifetime. Okay. Do we need to see what happened? We do. This is also part of the experience that has been in the process of healing over the course of time. One of the things is we often give fragments of our souls to people during really high intense situations on this planet because you always gave so much of yourself in so many different lifetimes. This particular lifetime that we're going to see right now, you gave a part of your soul to your father in this previous lifetime. Now, this is not your current father from this current lifetime. It is a different soul altogether. Okay, so why did she give her soul fragment to him? All you wanted was for him to love you. You did everything you could to please him. All you wanted was his love. And I'm hearing, I've done everything. I've even given you a piece of my soul, and that's still not enough. You're asking him, why won't you love me? And he's saying to you, I will love you when you love yourself. He's giving you back your soul fragment. And we're going to reintegrate that soul fragment into your soul at this time. Thank you. And I'm hearing that it is going to be the same message with your boys, with your sons. When you're able to finally, fully embody that love of yourself is when the repairing of the relationships will start to begin. And they want me to let you know that this is not a all or nothing type situation. Loving yourself is an ongoing process. There's not a single human on this planet that is in 100% self-love, but you have to be across a particular threshold of self-love in order to be able to start manifesting and accepting and receiving the love within your life that you deserve. And that threshold is different for every single person. For you, that threshold is about being in that peace that you seek within your room and being in that peace as often as possible, not taking on belief systems of others, not putting yourself in situations where you are being compromised in any way. And if you do happen to be in a situation where you are compromised in any way, that you are able to remove yourself from that situation immediately. That is when you decide, I no longer need to learn this lesson. I have learned this lesson already, and I can move forward and I can move on. It is a process. It is a process that you are currently going through. You will continue to go through. And as we said in the beginning of the session with the chakra scan, we said that you were in transition, that your root chakra was ever expanding. And that is absolutely the truth, because you are finally getting to that space. You're finally getting to that threshold. You have done amazing work. You have done the things that you have needed to do. And it has not been easy for you in this lifetime. You're moving out of the challenge, though. You're moving into this new energy.
There's times where I feel it.
And that's the overlap of that energy. So when we move into that new energy, when we're transitioning, there will be times when we feel like really grounded in that new energy and we'll feel really, really good. And then all of a sudden we dip back into the old energy and we're like, oh crap, I thought we were done with this. But that's just that's part of the transition, right? So it's not that you're going backwards. It's not that it's coming back and that you're going to have to be stuck in that energy again. It's just that it's part of the transition. We kind of oscillate between the two before we finally anchor into the new energy. Okay. Has the soul fragment been removed from the previous lifetime and reunited with her soul? Yes. Is there anything else we need to do? No. Okay. They just want you to know that you never have to give a piece of your soul in order to be loved. You don't have to do a single thing in order to be loved. Do you have any questions about the self-love message and what you have to do?
No. I know instinctively that is what I need to do. I have, like you said, I'm working really hard on myself. I go to a Reiki master and I'm working on meditation. All I watch now are programs on spiritual growth programs. I am drawn to them in a way that I can't even explain to you. I'm hungry for them. I want to learn. I'm just feeling completely pulled towards them. As I'm saying this to you, there's tingles going throughout my entire body. There's something waiting for me. And I know it's amazing. The biggest issue in my life right now is my home life. And I need to learn something from that. I need to learn to draw boundaries, to say no. And regardless of the temper tantrum or the explosion or whatever it is, just to not respond and stand my ground and say, it's okay if you don't like this and you don't have to, but I have to do what's right for me. And I have that right. I have that right.
Absolutely.
You also have rights and you don't have to stay either. He holds everything over my head, every single thing. And it's money. That's his big thing. I work. I'm the only one working. And I've allowed this situation. And I need to figure out how to disallow it. Yeah. That's what I need to figure out how to do. And just say, anything that you ever felt that I owe to you has been paid and then some. And that's that.
During this period of transition, while you go through the transition of removing yourself from the situation, use it as you were saying, use it as practice. So obviously you're going to have to interact with him through the transition. So for every interaction you have, use that as your practice of setting boundaries and just continue to practice and continue to practice. So for every challenge you have, you can connect back into your heart and say, okay, what do I need to do in this situation? What is most aligned for me? And how do I need to move forward? And just always ask those questions and your heart will never lie to you.
And one of the things that came to me with my mom and my dad and my brother was I was actually able to look back on them and say, I'm very blessed that I had them in my life because I learned something that I never would. It taught me something. Okay. And yes, it was horrible going through it, especially as a baby and as a child and as a teenage girl, but it gave me compassion. I was able to, not only for myself, but when I knew someone that was going through the same thing, I was able to speak to them from my heart and have empathy and also look back on it and think, as crazy as it sounds, I'm grateful to my mom now. Now I only see the strength in her, the goodness in her, and I see the sadness for what it was. She was a sad, depressed woman, and she just didn't know how to express it. And there was something about me that just brought out rage in her. She had 5 kids, and but for whatever reason, I was the one. She even told me, just looking at me makes me want to kill you. And I never understood it. I always thought there was a previous life thing going way, way back where something really bad happened between us. I don't know. I don't think so.
I'm not seeing that there's a past life between you that went really horribly. What I'm seeing is that you incarnated with her at a particular period of time in your soul growth and her soul growth, where the discrepancies were huge. When you are around somebody who is a really bright light, which you are a really bright light, even when you are in your self-loathing, even when you don't like yourself, you still are a bright light because you have gone through this growth, this path for many, many, many lifetimes. And just the fact that you've been able to tap into your gifts at such an early age really speaks to how connected you always have been in this lifetime. When you have somebody who is that giant mirror, because if you look at all of us, every single experience that we have, every single person we come across in our life can be looked at like a mirror. And what is that person showing us? How is that person reflecting back at you how you're feeling about yourself? And that's exactly what was happening. So if you can imagine her being a mirror to you and you being a mirror to her, you were showing her all of her shadow. And whereas you were in a place in this lifetime where her showing you your shadow, you were in a place where you're like, okay, I can now look at this. I can now work on this. I can do these things. She was not in a position where she could even think about looking at her shadow. Yeah. And all you were was a constant reminder to her of all of her shortcomings, all of her shadows, all of the things that she hated about herself. You were that mirror for her.
Yeah.
So the hatred you were feeling from her, in fact, had nothing to do with you. Yeah. The hatred you were feeling from her was her own self-hatred.
Yeah.
Which ironically was also mirroring your own self-hatred. Right.
Yep. Yeah.
So it's beautiful how the universe works sometimes. Well, actually, no, it's beautiful how the universe works all the time, because the universe knows how to orchestrate these things where we are going to help each other in every way possible, even if it is that challenging. Right.
Yep. Yep. Well, she came to me about, I would say, a little before a year ago. And it was when I was really doubting if I should have brought my dad here, because I've got two younger sisters that I have just a really turmoil-ish relationship with. And it was really dysfunctional and bad. And I went to sleep just thinking I did the wrong thing. I never should have brought him here. Would have been better for him to have stayed. He had moved to Oregon. And I thought I just should have left him there. He would have been better off. I've caused more damage for him, more hurt. And that night, I felt my mother's. I didn't see her. It was just her presence. And it was light and love. And all she was saying to me was, I am so happy. I am filled with joy. I am filled with peace. And that was her way of telling me, you did the right thing.
Yeah.
I had already had the conversation with her prior to this, where I had said, Mom, I forgive you. And I hope you forgive me. I know that we both said and did things that we both wish we hadn't. And I now know you were hurting. You didn't know what else to do. And I'm sorry that you had the life that you had. And I love you. And it was after that all these amazing things started happening. I tried to connect with my brother, couldn't find him. And that tells me he was nowhere near me. And that's okay. I want peace for him. He had a horrific life. He was a soul too. And he did some monstrous things. But that couldn't have been easy on him either.
You're not going to be able to connect to him. And the reason why, it's not that he hasn't crossed over, he has. Your connection was with your mother. It wasn't with him, right? There's really no need for you to connect on the other side. And so that's why you will not connect with him. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, I'm good with that, because I just wanted to make sure, you and I are good, bud. You go your way, I'm going mine,
Yeah. Yeah. One thing I would like to do before we close, while you're in this sacred space, I would like you to check in with your inner child, and just the very first age that comes to you. That's the age that we're going to work with right now.
Okay.
And how old are you?
I'm about 11 months old.
Okay. So I'd like you to imagine that you're holding the 11-month-old version of you.
Okay.
And I want you to check in with her, and I want you to ask her how she's feeling in this moment.
She feels scared.
Okay.
She's terrified. She knows that what's being done to her is wrong, but she doesn't even understand why it's wrong.
Okay.
She knows that her mother is a scary person when, as soon as she takes a drink, she becomes a monster. She knows that her father, on many levels, knows that what's happening is wrong, but he himself doesn't know how to stop it. She knows that her brother is a twisted person, and that he's angry, and that he takes his anger out on children, even though he himself was a child.
So what I would like you to do is I'd like you to just have a little conversation with her. You're holding her in your arms right now. And I want you to let her know that you can be with her anytime she needs you. She can be held in your arms energetically throughout the course of her entire childhood if she needs you. So I'd like you to just have a little conversation with her and just tell her what you would like to tell her, and just let me know when you're done.
Okay, I'm done.
Okay. And how does she feel now?
She feels safe.
Okay. So just let her know that anytime she's not feeling safe, that all she needs to do is to call on you.
Okay.
And you can sort of create a symbol if you would like a sign that whenever she gives you this symbol or this sign, that's when she needs you. And you can go into a meditation and you can talk to her. You can ask her what's happening. You can see if she needs comfort. And so this is a sign that you create between the two of you, that whenever you see this sign, that you will connect with her.
Okay.
And she can be any age. It doesn't necessarily have to be just the 11-month-old version of you. It could be any age she is.
Okay.
So I want you to give her a really big hug.
I'm rocking her the way I used to rock my babies.
Beautiful. Okay. So we are going to close the Akashic Records. I want to thank Akula, my Akashic guide. I want to thank Archangel Metatron and Archangel Sandalphon for being here as well. Thank you so much for helping her and everything she needed help with today. The records are closed. The records are closed. The records are closed. Thank you. Imagine that you are walking out of this sacred space back out into that clearing of grass and flowers with the circle of trees. And imagine a beautiful column of light coming in through your crown chakra, clearing and cleansing anything that does not belong to you. Okay. How do you feel?
I feel great.
Wonderful.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. I can't tell you how much I have looked forward to talking to you. I knew as soon as I heard your name, you were going to be what I needed. And I want to thank you. I have to tell you how grateful I am that you're doing this work.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
So I want to tell you, you're just awesome. Well, love to you. Love to you, my dear friend.
Love to you as well. I would like to thank Brianne for allowing us to record her session and for sharing her story with us today. This particular session is a really good example of how something from a past life can just continue the energy over and over and over again. One of the things that I would like to address today is this idea of the repeating cycle and how taking a look at the energy from previous lifetimes as well as connecting to the repeating patterns that you have in this lifetime can lead you to the very lesson that you are meant to learn or the energy that you are meant to move through. Because our energy is always giving us signs and signals of what we need to do in order to move forward on our path. And it doesn't matter if you are tapped into your intuition or not. Everybody does this without even realizing that they're doing it. It just so happens that Brianne has been very intentional since a very young age in trying to get through this energy that she had been stuck in for so long. And the main lesson here for her was all about self-love. Now, often when we have these types of emotionally and potentially physically abusive relationships, most of the time we enter into these relationships out of a need that we are seeking. We are seeking a need for validation or for love or acceptance, or we're seeking a need for somebody to not abandon us. When we are leading with the energy of needing something, it does make us vulnerable to others who might be looking to take something. When it came to Brianne's experience in the past life, it was about her not being able to accept herself for who she was physically. And in that lack of acceptance, that created this energy of not being able to accept love, accept praise, accept acceptance. And all she did was push it away when she had it right there in front of her. So the universe is like, okay, cool. You need to learn this lesson. How do you want to learn it? We didn't necessarily tap into Brianne's planning meeting prior to this particular incarnation, but I imagine that she decided to incarnate with this family that was abusive, that she decided to have these marriages that were abusive in order to finally break free of this pattern. Now, I know this is really difficult for a lot of you out there to hear, especially if you have been in abusive relationships. It is hard to understand or even contemplate that we would choose something like that. There are two aspects to this that I want to bring up, that it is not your human self that is choosing it. It is your soul that has chosen these experiences. If you haven't chosen these experiences, which is possible, it may just be the fact that your energy is in such a self-deprecating place that you feel so unworthy that that energy is ripe and open for predators and other people who are in lower energies to just pounce, right? It can be that you haven't planned this for your life. Usually when that happens, it's a one-off situation. It's like maybe your whole life it's been relatively okay, and then all of a sudden maybe you're in some lower energy, some lack of worthiness energy, and you end up in an emotionally abusive relationship, let's say. If it's literally just that one time you were able to get out of it and now you're fine, okay, cool. So that's probably one of those situations where it was literally just the energy that was attracting that situation to you. That wasn't the case here with Brianne. It was something that had been going on for years and years and years since she was very, very young. And typically that's going to indicate something that has been decided on a soul level. So it is very rare that a child or a baby would be in lower energy. It's possible, but it's more rare. So you can see if the baby is starting off in these energies of having abuse or any sort of experience like that, chances are it is because of the family that the soul has decided to incarnate in. This is what I have seen in the records as far as what we do and how we choose the families that we're incarnating with. You might ask, is this always the case? Yes, it is. It's always the case that we are choosing who we incarnate with as far as our parents. Sometimes it's not necessarily our choice to incarnate with, let's say, brothers and sisters, because it could just be like a package deal. You may decide to incarnate with a particular mother, but then that soul has chosen a particular husband. And so you decide that it's, okay, that's something that I can work with in terms of the energy. When it comes to your own self-love and how you show up in the world, it is not just about saying, yes, I love myself and I love the way I look, or I love my body. It's not about that. It's part of it, but that's not the whole picture. Because you can say you love your body or you love yourself physically all you want, but if you are leading with energy that says that you self-loathe, or that you do not appreciate, or that you are not worthy, then you are still going to attract those situations to you. So how do you work on the internal? Well, you do exactly the same things that we did in this session. You go and you speak to that inner child. You do the timeline work. You talk to the previous versions of yourself to find out why you don't have that self-love, to get to the bottom of where that came from. It's a lot of work, because a lot of the lower energies that you might be in that is in a cycle, these cycles have been going on possibly for many, many lifetimes. It is possible. It is possible to get through these and to shift and change the energy so you are able to get out of this energy of abuse. No matter what the abuse looks like, you can take the steps to get out of it. And those steps start with you and your internal healing, with your inner child, with your past lives, with your auric field. I want to be clear that it's not to say that this is your fault that these things are happening to you, but it is to say that it is within your power to step into your power and start moving out of these situations. When you are doing this internal work, it is advised to not do it alone. Reach out to your friends, reach out to the people you trust, reach out to your practitioners, reach out to whoever you can that can help you through this situation, whatever it happens to be. So a couple other ways that you can clear the energy of these relationships, because sometimes these relationships can stick far past their expiration date. One of the things you can do is you can do cord cutting. And that is something that I did in the session with Brianne. And that is removing any and all energetic cords between you and the other person. And this is a temporary thing, because if you have not ended the relationship, those cords can be reattached. If you are allowing the cords to be reattached, they can be, even at a distance, even if the relationship is over. So cord cutting can be permanent at a certain point, but it has to be at a point of healing. So in order to keep the cords removed from your energy field, you will have to do it often until the energy is gone. I recommend doing cord cutting. If you're in a really challenging situation, you can do cord cutting every day. You can do it multiple times a day. You can do it once a week, just whatever you feel called to do. That is the best practice for you. When there are large discrepancies in energy between you and the other person, there are challenges with that in the sense that you will start to see all of the gaps in not only their energy, but then you will see where you have grown in yours. It will push your energies further and further apart. One of the challenges with this is that when you are drifting apart from someone because your energy, your vibration, your frequency is raising, it can make people in your life irritated, angry, resentful, because it highlights more of their shadow. It highlights more of their frequency and where they are. So don't be surprised if you do this work and you are doing this work for yourself and to be able to stand up and be in your power. That there is the potential that people in your life could be resentful of it, could be angry. I have experienced this in my life as well. And it can be really hard to get through because you're wondering why people are so angry at you or why people are pushing you away. And the reason has nothing to do with you as a person. It just has to do with the energy. When you are in a situation where the discrepancies are so large as they were with Brianne and her husband, those discrepancies are already so big that it really doesn't matter at that point how much higher she goes. There's still going to be that anger coming from her husband until she decides to let go and start moving forward. Sometimes it's hard to do that as well when we have given soul fragments to other people, when we have other people's energy attached to us, when we have no ability maybe to stand up for ourselves or to stand in our power. And so each one of these things needs to happen one thing at a time. Cord cutting can happen. That can help clear your energy a little bit at a time. Clearing your energy can help. Clearing your house of any lower negative energies. Going for a walk. Removing yourself from the situation for any given number of minutes or hours can make all the difference in the world. Now, I want to preface this by saying that if this is a situation in which you are in a physically abusive relationship and there is danger to your life, then I'm going to suggest that you seek that professional help, that you seek legal help, that you seek protection, that you seek some sort of counseling or therapy, because the energetic work is absolutely important, but so are the 3D steps that you need to take in order to make sure that you are safe. The other thing I want to talk about today is soul fragments. And this is something that is a permanent fix. Once you get that soul fragment returned, there's no further healing or no further energy clearing that you need to do. So I'm going to define a soul fragment first. So a soul fragment is literally just a part of your soul. It's just a part of your soul that you may give to somebody else. You might ask why you would give a soul fragment to someone else. It's not necessarily something that you are giving willingly, if you will. It is more that you would be giving it in extreme emotional experiences. So, for example, in a past life, I gave a part of my soul to my father in that particular lifetime because he was dying and I didn't want to leave him. And I knew that if I left, that I would never see him again. And I was a child. And that love and that grief and everything that I was feeling ended up giving him a part of my soul. It is the same with couples. If one is on their deathbed and then the other one is in such grief or pain for the loss of the other, they might actually give them another part of their soul. There can be other reasons that soul fragments can be given from person to person, from soul to soul. You might do it to help another soul. You might lend them your soul energy in order to help them achieve something that they want to achieve. That's something that's a little bit more rare, but it can happen. There can also be soul fragments when there is a trauma. There can be jagged edges, if you will, in your soul based on traumas that you experience either in this lifetime or in previous lifetimes. If you consider that your soul wants to be whole and wants to be unified, in order to retrieve a soul fragment, all you need to do is set the intention that all soul fragments that you have given to any soul across any universe, dimension, plane, reality, or time be recalled to you now. The other aspect of this is to clear that soul fragment. If that soul fragment has been residing in another soul, it has been gathering information or psychic debris or anything else from that soul. So you want to clear the soul fragment as it comes back into your energy field. This is why it is recommended to do this with a practitioner so it can be done properly. And so you don't end up having negative energy or weird energy that's attached to you based on this soul fragment. I didn't need to do that with Brianne in this particular session because we were in our sacred space, our sacred container in the Akashic Records to be able to recall that soul fragment. And as the soul fragment passes through the container that we have created, the sacred space, it already gets cleaned and cleansed. So it is a pure version of that part of her soul. How do you know if you have a soul fragment missing, meaning that you have given it to somebody else? Or how do you know that you have a soul fragment within you that is somebody else's? That is something we can certainly take a look at within the Akashic Records. You may notice that there are certain things that may feel sort of out of place within your soul. So maybe there's something that you like to do that is very not in line with everything else that you do. Just something that seems a little incongruent to who you are and what you do. That can be a little bit of a clue. Just as you can recall all soul fragments back to yourself, you can also set the intention to remove any and all soul fragments from any other person, any other soul, and have those returned back to them as well. I do recommend, if you would like to do this yourself, make sure you set up your sacred space, go into a meditation. You can ask any of your angels and guides to help you. You can ask any of your angels and guides to clear the space for you and to assist you with this process. Again, thank you so much for joining me this week. We just have 2 episodes left before the end of season 2, and then we're going to be taking a little break. Have an amazing week, and I'm sending you so much love. If you're enjoying this podcast, it would be really amazing if you could like, share, and subscribe. Wherever you listen to podcasts, whether it's Apple or Spotify, feel free to give it a review if you feel called. If you are following me on YouTube, make sure you subscribe and hit the bell so you are notified for every single new episode of the Akashic Recordings. If you feel called to book a session with me, you can always reach me at infinitesoullove.com, and you can book directly on my website. Thank you so much for all of your support, and I can't wait to connect with you